Coming up on this special edition of Inside Pinellas, volunteer value. We're coming to you from Weeden Island Preserve to show you what volunteers contribute every day in Pinellas County. And Maintenance Man. We'll show you how one volunteer beat the odds and now helps the entire staff at Fort DeSoto Park. Plus, Lifetime Legacy. We'll take you to a museum that volunteers built and show you one volunteer's legacy for those she left behind. We'll have the latest on all those stories and more straight ahead on this special volunteer edition of Inside Pinellas.
From the studios of Pinellas County Connection Television, this is a special edition of Inside Pinellas.
Hello and welcome to this special edition of Inside Pinellas. I'm Mark Romano. We're here at Weeden Island Preserve, and behind me is the Preserve's Cultural and Natural History Center. Pinellas County's parks and preserves offer a vast array of recreational and educational opportunities to residents and visitors from around the globe. And it takes hundreds of employees to keep them up and running. But it also takes the work of volunteers. And that's the subject of our special edition of Inside Pinellas, the value of volunteers. We want to show you how Pinellas County couldn't offer all the programs and services it does without its more than 2,600 talented and loyal volunteers. Even I'm a volunteer. And it's been my pleasure to host Inside Pinellas for more than 5 years now. And right here at Weeden Island Preserve and its 3,700 acres, volunteers host the thousands of visitors that walk through the doors every year.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going?
I'm fine. How are you?
The morning ritual at Weeden Island Preserve's Cultural and Natural History Center.
There we go. We're all set.
It's 9 a.m. on a Thursday, and volunteer docents Betty Nolan and Dick Barble start their shift by opening the doors. Without volunteers, Weeden Island's Cultural Center couldn't open its doors. Literally.
Yes, from the very beginning, when they first planned these facilities, both the Brooker Creek and the Weeden Island facilities, we knew that we needed volunteers. We needed to have a core of volunteers that we could depend upon to help us run the facilities.
And that core of more than 45 long-term volunteers at Weeden Island alone does everything from greeting visitors, setting up lecture rooms, guiding nature hikes, to cataloging and preserving artifacts. David Burns is a cultural resource volunteer.
You can tell an awful lot from just a small piece of pottery or even a piece of lithic or a small artifact. It's one tiny piece of somebody's prior existence or life, and it's exciting.
David's interest in archaeology comes from his background in science. He holds a master's degree in geology and worked as a petroleum geologist exploring for oil in Oklahoma back in the 1980s.
With a geology background, I'm able to make use of a lot of the things in the discipline, like working with the lithics or the stone and the pottery and stratigraphy. And so, archaeology is a multidisciplinary science. So it's intriguing. It's like forensic science in a sense. You're taking what they left behind and trying to gather how they lived. But just being a volunteer and having the opportunity to come here and be able to take part in this exploration and analysis of past life and different things, it's very rewarding.
10-year volunteer Betty Nolan agrees.
It's just such a fascinating spot that so many people are not aware of. I think that's it. They just make them aware of it, And that's one of the good things that school children have done, because I've heard children say, "Oh, I'm going to bring my mom and dad out here. We've never been here before." And I think that's very encouraging.
6-year volunteer Dick Barble feels that educating young people is the center's most important role, with the museum and exhibits taking center stage.
Having that for these kids to go in there and to get their hands on a pot, put a pot back together, to see the silhouettes of the Native Americans working doing the things that they needed to do to live here. All, I think, is a good experience for them.
And according to Betty, volunteering at Weeden Island Preserve is a good experience for her as well.
It's a good feeling. It is a good feeling. It's a good feeling to know that we're just part of it even.
Thanks for calling. Bye-bye. Okay.
Betty Nolan's husband Donald also volunteers at Weeden Island on the maintenance crew. They are a great group, and like Weeden Island, Brooker Creek Preserve up in Tarpon Springs also runs on volunteer power. There are only 2 full-time staff members, the rest are volunteers. There's another county destination that's utilizing volunteers more and more, Fort DeSoto Park. Fort DeSoto is a definition of why so many tourists come to Pinellas County and why residents stay. In recent years, the park has undergone significant staffing reductions. But at the same time, the group of 5 unspoiled islands has been named the #1 beach in the nation by TripAdvisor for the 2nd year running, ringing up record attendance numbers. With more than 1,100 acres to care for and less than 30 full-time staff, how can this world-class destination stay afloat? Inside Pinellas reporter Libby Bowling has the story.
We don't do any advertising. We don't have to.
Park Supervisor Jim Wilson manages one of the most well-known attractions in Florida, attracting 3.2 million visitors in 2009.
Most people know Fort DeSoto for its pristine beaches and beautiful landscape. But there's another side to Fort DeSoto that takes place behind the scenes. It's the maintenance.
Looks like it's been a while since that's happened.
Yes, it does. We used to have a fleet mechanic that was stationed here for, our rolling stock and small engines, and now we get a mechanic, once a week for a couple hours. It's a matter of scaling down operations and trying to be as functional as possible with the limited resources that we have.
And that's where 71-year-old volunteer Gary Schwab comes in. Gary is a retired seasonal resident with a lot of work and life experience behind him. Now on weekday mornings, you'll find him repairing a chainsaw or a small engine in one of the maintenance sheds on Bonnie Fortune Key.
It's a challenge because many times you don't have a clue what's. So I have a series, so you start, does it have a spark? Is it getting gas?
It's a skill he picked up during his 45 years tree trimming in his home state of Michigan.
I started as a tree trimmer for the city of Detroit. And just after I started with the city of Detroit is when the Dutch elm disease hit Detroit. In a period of 10 years, we cut down 500,000 elm trees.
Gary ended up starting his own tree trimming business, moving to Cadillac in the process. And being in the business of tree trimming all those years might be why he has such a love of natural places, especially Fort DeSoto, and why he volunteers.
With my job, I traveled everywhere, including Europe, all over the United States. I've never seen a park as nice as Fort DeSoto. If you come here in the evening, there are raccoons everywhere. It's just a special place for me.
The job and the traveling Gary referred to was during his second career. He did indeed have a lot of work and life experiences behind him. He had decided to hang up the chainsaw in 1971, though he continued trimming trees as a volunteer for friends and neighbors, really anyone who asked. It was then that Gary took a job as an hourly worker with a company that built restraint systems for cargo on military aircraft, eventually working his way up to president. That's right, president of a subsidiary of a New York Stock Exchange traded company. Then life gave him a new experience.
11 years ago, I had a real serious bout of cancer. And I ended up in the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. I was there for 14 weeks, and they were going to do surgery on my lungs. And the doctor said, if I don't do surgery, you got less than 2 weeks. If I do surgery, you're so weak, you'll probably die on a table.
I'm wondering, that's the cover we're talking about, right?
Yes, it is. So the surgery worked. They've used some experimental stuff on me that actually saved my life. So it was. So part of my volunteering has been, giving back for. I figure I've been on a gifted time ever since then.
And the staff at Fort DeSoto has been given the gift of Gary Schwach.
We have a lot of dedicated folks that realize that the volunteers are not here to take their jobs, but to help them succeed.
But now you're a part of Fort DeSoto.
Absolutely, I intend to stay a part of Fort DeSoto. I already told them I can't wait to come back to volunteer again next year. They told me they could use me in the summertime if I want to come back.
Sounds like Gary has a lot more work and life experiences in front of him. From Fort DeSoto, I'm Libby Bowling for Inside Pinellas.
Thanks, Libby. What a great story. And as Jim Wilson said, there are many challenges presented by our current budget situation. But it's volunteers like Gary Schwach that offer their knowledge and talents to help fill the gap. Coming up on this special volunteer edition of Inside Pinellas, we'll show you how one volunteer has tamed the locks of hundreds of dogs and cats up for adoption at Pinellas County Animal Services. But first, we'll take you to a small museum that's big with volunteers, and we'll show you the tribute to one very special volunteer. Stay tuned.
Market in the Park returns Saturdays to Pinellas County's Heritage Village. You'll find things here that you can't find at the other weekend markets and new items every time you visit. Proceeds from the market go to the Pinellas County Historical Society for the benefit of Heritage Village. Saturdays through April 16th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Pinellas County's Heritage Village. See you this Saturday at Market in the Park at Heritage Village.
Welcome back to this special edition of Inside Pinellas from Weeden Island Preserve. We're here at the kayak and canoe launch, where visitors access some of Pinellas County's most beautiful waterways. And as we've already seen, volunteers are an essential part of running the preserve. So how does Pinellas County give back to these energetic and hardworking people? With their annual Volunteer Appreciation event, held every year in April during Volunteer Appreciation Week.
Let me tell you that the Commission has made it very, very clear that volunteerism is a high priority in the county.
County Administrator Robert LaSala and Board of County Commission members hosted the 2010 Volunteer Appreciation event at Pinellas County Extension. More than 275 volunteers were treated to hors d'oeuvres, a raffle, music, and honored with awards.
It was a very special evening because, we truly could applaud each and every one of them for giving of so much of their time and caring so much about making a palatable difference in our county for our citizens. And that was what it was all about, was celebrating.
Volunteers who've given from 10 to over 30 years of service received Lifetime Achievement Awards. And one very special award recipient, Helen Wachter, was honored for her 26 years of volunteer service and for her recent birthday, when she turned 100 years old.
Happy birthday, dear Helen. Happy birthday to you.
I was able to attend this year, and it was a very special evening. Now here's a story about a very special group of volunteers that's preserving the history of Pinellas County's barrier islands. We originally covered the Gulf Beaches Historical Museum back in 2008, and volunteer reporter Chelsea Lawson followed this report celebrating the museum's then 15th anniversary.
Come take a walk into history at the Gulf Beaches Historical Museum, right across the street from beautiful St. Pete Beach. Here, you too can reminisce about the way things used to be. This year, the museum is celebrating 15 years of being open to the public, and longtime volunteer Jerry McGavro has been here from the beginning.
I like history. I like the people I work with. I love telling other people about the history of where I live. And I just kind of feel almost like it's my museum.
This museum is unlike most history museums that you may have visited. It is run entirely by a small group of local volunteers who dedicate their time here.
This is the Joan Haley room over here.
The museum's volunteer site coordinator, Lance Peterson, feels that all the volunteers should be commended for preserving the history of the barrier islands.
The museum is different primarily because we are an all-volunteer museum. Everything you see in this museum is done by our volunteers. We've changed out our exhibits regularly so that if you come back 2 or 3 times a year, you're going to see fresh exhibits. But there is no paid staff here. We are the museum. The people that come in the door are as much a part of our museum as we are.
These volunteers really hold the museum together and show that this is a labor of love. Every day, the volunteers collect and preserve photos, newspaper clippings, and antiquities that date back to the 1500s.
Each volunteer is worth about $19 an hour to the county, but they're priceless for us because without our volunteers, we simply couldn't be here.
But what brings them back day after day? Volunteer Kay Peterson explains.
It's a very peaceful place when we come, and it's very, it just feels very good when you're in here. Also, I think what brings me here a lot too are the people who come in, our visitors. They are so thrilled to be here and so excited about Paso Grill and about St. Pete Beach, but then when they see the museum, they just get really excited about what we've done. So that's always nice to have happen.
The museum's collection has grown over the past years, and its memorabilia ranges from the famous Don Cesar Hotel to the lesser-known Sunshine Schools, the first primary schools along the beaches. The museum has so much history inside, but the building is also a historic landmark. Built in 1917, it served as the first church of Pinellas County's barrier islands. Then in 1959, the small church transformed into a cozy little home. Miss Joan Haley lived here until 1989.
Well, this is, of course, the original church on the island. And the lady who owned it left it to the county with the understanding that we would become a museum. We've been a museum for 15 years.
And for 15 years, visitors have been able to see what our barrier islands were like in a bygone time. So, come out and reminisce as you take a walk through all the history that the Gulf Beaches Historical Museum has to offer.
That was volunteer reporter Chelsea Lawson. Although much has remained the same since Chelsea's visit in 2008, there have been some changes with the museum and the volunteers. Longtime volunteer Jerry McGoverill passed away. She hadn't been able to volunteer for a while, but her 17 years of contributions left a lasting impression.
We miss her. She was a big part of our lives for a long time, and that leaves a big hole.
Before Jerry's death, the museum staff named a room in her honor for all her years of service.
And it's seemed, I'm not even sure which one of us had the idea first, but it seemed to be a good one, and that we'll always remember when we use that room, which we use a lot, that it was for Jerry.
The Jerry McGoverill Room is where volunteers, nicknamed the Backroom Girls, put together and update the museum's collection. It's the heart of the museum and fittingly named after a woman who put so much of her own heart into it. And we'll be right back.
Hello, I'm property appraiser Pam Dubo. Florida law provides for property tax exemptions for qualified residents, including homestead, low-income senior, disability and veterans exemption, and a discount for combat wounded Florida veterans over age 65 who entered the service while a Florida resident. Each exemption has specific qualifications, so call our office at 464-3294 or visit our website at pcpao.org. Remember, the deadline to file is March 1st.
Welcome back. We're here at the fishing pier at Weeden Island Preserve. County facilities like these take maintenance and regular grooming. It's the same over at Pinellas County Animal Services, where it isn't just the facilities that need grooming, but also the clientele. And volunteers are making a big contribution to the effort, one small snip at a time. Inside Pinellas reporter Libby Bowling is back with the story.
Hey, baby. Here, baby. Come here.
Leslie Uzo is a dog groomer at Pinellas County Animal Services. She's been volunteering here for 12 years and enjoys the work. At home, Leslie fosters greyhounds, but here she loves all the dogs.
I know I can't adopt them all as much as I would like to. At least if I can increase their chances a little bit, then that makes me feel better.
Donating time as a volunteer is an excellent way to help ensure the health and well-being of animals. The success of animal services depends on the commitment of dedicated and well-trained volunteers.
No one wants to take home a stinky, dirty animal that has never been exercised and doesn't have a name. That's why I have the volunteers, like Leslie, bathe them. They get walked so that they are calmer when they come out to say hi to people. And we have them, I have our volunteers name them also so that they have names. It makes them more personal.
Can always count on the little dogs going home. It's the big dogs, the big lab mixes and the big chow mixes. Those are the ones that stay here longer.
No matter how long they stay, the animals are always given the royal treatment. With a little snip here and a little snip there, Leslie has her own way of making each pet feel special. But it's bath time that the dogs seem to like best, and they don't seem to mind the cameras either.
You feel better now? Huh? What a face, huh? That's cute.
For Inside Pinellas, I'm Libby Bowling.
Okay.
Thanks, Libby. That story originally aired back in June of 2003, and 7 years later, Leslie is still volunteering at Animal Services. Leslie's dedication won her the Humanitarian of the Year award from the Florida Animal Control Association in 2004, and Leslie was the only volunteer to ever win. Recently, we caught up with her and asked her why she has volunteered for now more than 19 years. Here's what she had to say.
I guess I just get a good feeling knowing that I've done something for the dogs that don't have a home. There's so many out there that that don't have a home, and you know, especially with the economy being the way it is, a lot of dogs, it's hard for them to get a home. A lot of people are giving their dogs up, so it may not help 100%, but I feel like it's something that I can contribute.
And thanks to volunteers like Leslie, Animal Services is able to help more pets find new homes. Pinellas County Extension offers educational programs and services to the public in cooperation with the University of Florida's Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences. Another program they are known for is the Master Gardeners program. Inside Pinellas reporter Len Szynski brings us the story.
It's quite a distinction being a Master Gardener at the Pinellas County Extension. Wearing that name tag means you've invested 75 hours in training and learning. You're committed to making things grow and giving back to the community.
Well, Master Gardeners, when they arrive at the gardens or at Extension, they will work in the gardens. They might be involved in the herb garden, in the shade house or greenhouse. They'll do everything from mulching, fertilizing, planting, weeding. They'll even do some design features.
All around outside the grounds of the Pinellas County Extension, you can see the fruits of their efforts, the product of the hard work of these teams of Master Gardeners. But now, let's take a look at some of the hard work that goes on inside the building.
What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to solarize your soil. We can't fumigate as home gardeners, but you're going to need to solarize your soil this summer, wherever you're planting them at.
Master Gardener Linda Jones works one day a week at the help desk, where she helps backyard enthusiasts to identify problems in their garden and make them right.
They're looking for what's wrong. Why do I have these bugs? What can you tell me? And they're very excited once they find out what the problem is. And then the next question is, how do we fix it? How do I kill it? How do I fix it? How do I make my plant better? How do I keep this from spreading to all my other plants?
If Linda doesn't have the answer at her fingertips, she can always rely on the vast resources available to Extension agents as they work as part of the University of Florida's Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences.
You're right there. You're right over their shoulders. I'm right there looking in the microscope right after they do. They show me, they talk to us, they walk us through the steps, and that's what's so interesting, and it's rewarding.
Master Gardener Chuck Scafidi has spent the last several years putting information into databases and coordinating the Extension's on-site volunteer program.
I had a very heavy technical background.
when I came here to apply for the volunteer position. And with that heavy technical background and a large staff and a large complement of computers and technical equipment, I felt, well, maybe that I could be of more service if I put my background to work on those computers.
What's Chuck's heavy technical background? Well, he may have his feet on the ground now, but he spent much of his professional career reaching for the stars.
Well, I was the senior manager on the Hubble Space Telescope. We had senior managers for every piece of it. And I was the senior manager for the whole testing of the Hubble Space Telescope before we put it into space.
But whether they work inside, outside, under or over the clouds, Master Gardeners are an invaluable asset to Pinellas County government as they work a labor of love.
They feel that they've contributed, they can see what their work has done, they see the customers come and walk through and ask questions and all the oohs and ahs. When you have that sense of ownership and teamwork and you're working with Master Gardeners that are their friends, that's the reward that I'm hearing that they enjoy.
For Inside Pinellas, I'm Len Szynski.
Thanks, Len. Pinellas County has 140 Master Gardeners currently on its team. Many volunteer anywhere from 4 to 40 hours a week, offering their expertise in gardening, outreach, and educational services. Last year, Extension's Master Gardeners contributed 17,463 hours, keeping the Extension's grounds green and the public informed. Well, that wraps up our special edition of Inside Pinellas, The Value of Volunteers. We hope you've enjoyed getting to know some of our volunteers a little better. Unfortunately, we can't possibly bring you every volunteer's contribution throughout the county. There are so many ways, and there would never be enough time. So we want to send a message to all volunteers from every corner of Pinellas County government. Thank you for all you do to make Pinellas County the greatest place to live, work, play, and volunteer. If you'd like to learn more about the Volunteer Services Program, just log on to the Volunteer Services website at pinellascounty.org/volserve. That's VOLSERV. Well, thanks again for watching. Keep it right here on PCC-TV, your county connection. We leave you with another look at this year's Volunteer Appreciation Event.
And you are, again, the reason for our success. So that's why we're here today, to applaud you, to thank you, and to recognize all that you do for the county.